Arizona Child Protective Services is in crisis. The situation is roiling state politics and, for one woman, opening wounds.
It's very heartbreaking to see it come out to light and, knowing that I was one of those cases, and, it's probably why we're in the big mess that we're in right now, that there's so many kids in care and, we don't know, why is all this going on? That's exactly why.
The investigations of these children and getting our eyes on them as a priority to make sure they're safe, and two, to look at the system, at the organization, and find ways to prevent this from ever happening again.
What's wrong with the system and how can it be fixed? We'll find out. It's Arizona Week.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.
We're going to enact reforms so that these things don't happen like this ever again in the state of Arizona.
Not one child will have another day that they can be in a situation of jeopardy.
One, the investigations of these children and getting our eyes on them as a priority to make sure they're safe, and two, to look at the system, at the organization, and find ways to prevent this from ever happening again.
That was Monday at the state capitol in Phoenix as Governor Jan Brewer created an independent team to find out why 6,500 child abuse reports have gone uninvestigated. Some say her call for reform has taken too long. We'll start with this report by AZPM's Lorraine Rivera, who visited Tucson's Casa de los Niños, a foster care agency that's feeling the weight of an overwhelmed system.
And on his farm, he had a chicken. What's the chicken say? Cluck, cluck, cluck.
Songs and hugs. This is routine at Casa de los Niños.
And then the raccoon crawled under the bed.
A community agency that cares for children. These loving hands mostly serve kids referred from Child Protective Services.
I want you to make a big one.
A big one? A big pancake?
This emergency shelter resembles a home, and it is. But Executive Director Suzie Huhn insists this is more like a temporary home packed with love and guidance.
We make change one family at a time, but if we change that one family, what we know, it changes not only for that child today, but it changes how that child will parent their children. So now we've changed generations, and that's what we have to focus on.
All right. And he went out.
The staff works with children who suffered trauma. They're trained to provide healing and treatment services. It takes time and money, dollars the state has always struggled to provide.
We are an anomaly in that most states are decreasing the number of children coming into foster care, and we're increasing. And we're one of the few, no one's increasing to the rate we are, number one, but a majority of the 50 states are decreasing. Some as much as 40%, where we're seeing the 40% increase.
Huhn has worked in child advocacy for 35 years. Hearing that 6,000 cases went uninvestigated strikes a chord with this veteran child advocate.
We feel like there's a lot of risk out there to a lot of children, a lot of potential that you don't know. So obviously the unknown's pretty scary as far as what kind of condition 6,000 families are in without getting any kind of help or supports that they may need.
Huhn suspects that after the governor's care team takes a close look at the cases marked as not investigated, community agencies like Casa de los Niños will see an influx of children filtered into the system, something Arizona knows all too well.
So from 2011 on, we saw child abuse reports rise, we saw children coming into out-of-home care rise, and yet we weren't paying attention enough to it to reinvest at a time where we needed to rebuild systems that we tore down at the economic crisis.
The revelation of ignored cases has awoken a sleeping giant.
Now our attention's on it. Okay, we missed this trend coming, and it just hit us hard. And families are hurting in our state, and yet you can't just rebuild something that you've torn down for that many years overnight.
Under the bed, who had eaten all their food. The end.
Politicians of all stripes have jumped into the conversation about what should be done to protect children in the state. Joining me with his perspective is State Senator David Bradley, a Tucson Democrat. Welcome, Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much.
You've made your own proposal for what the state ought to do to protect children. Would you detail that for us?
Sure, yeah. I asked that we step back. You know, this is a time when there's a lot of rhetoric, a lot of screaming, a lot of finger pointing. And my point is that the status of children in the state of Arizona is even a bigger issue. And that CPS is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the challenges that children face. And so I'm proposing to put not only CPS, but juvenile justice, parts of the mental health system, parts of the public health system as well, and coordinate services under one department.
Now, how would that improve conditions for children? Would it be because there's a centralized effort at it?
Right, in part. Right now we operate in a lot of silos. Sometimes children show up in more than one silo. They may be in juvenile justice, they may be in mental health, maybe in CPS, one of them, two of them, three of them. And we often work at cross purposes. There's also other resources of the Department of Economic Security that go to children, whether it's food stamps or other services to the families, and in the public health system, whether it's oral health interventions, those type of things. All of those are factors. All these different entities are working oftentimes with the same kids. And let's put those resources together, channel them more efficiently, and hopefully avert the situation that we currently find ourselves in.
If we went to a system such as what you describe, how would it be funded? Would the funding be shifted or reallocated? Would there be additional funding?
It would be mostly the reallocation of current funding. I suspect that when we get a good analysis of our situation, that there's going to be a requirement for some more funding that would, in the past, be only targeted at CPS. So I think it would be naive to think that, gee, we can deal with this only with reallocation. There's going to, have to be more resource put in. But I agree in this case with the Senate President of not throwing a resource or money to this problem without a clear plan, without a way to deal with this problem more globally than we're currently dealing with it.
You said that the issues that we're seeing with CPS are just the tip of the iceberg. So what's below the surface?
Yeah,
there?
I think it's I sometimes refer to them as the modern day four horsemen of the apocalypse in our time. And that's poverty, violence, substance abuse, and mental illness. And children are being affected by all of these things and are showing up in all different areas, whether it's the mental health system, juvenile justice, the school systems, who are oftentimes the first entities that encounter the problems that children are having. Let's get those are the kids are showing up in all of those systems, and CPS is only a part of it. Our most egregious cases tend to show up in CPS, but right underneath the surface, there's a lot of problems brewing.
And you as a professional, in addition to your career as a politician, an elected official, are a mental health counselor.
Right.
What are you seeing in that part of the system?
Yeah, I spent 30 years in child welfare and mental health systems here in southern Arizona, and the problems that we are seeing are, in some ways, are cyclical in terms of people's attention, but they're not cyclical in terms of the challenges that these children have been facing for many, many years. Exacerbated by the economy, exacerbated by cuts to various entities, whether it's in education, social welfare programs, juvenile justice programs. All those have combined to the situation that we currently are facing, or at least that's got people's attention so acutely.
The economic cycle, you mentioned that, is certainly a contributor, as many people have acknowledged. As the economy improves, albeit slowly, will we see improvement in conditions for children?
Well, I think to a certain extent that would be true. But Arizona's at the crossroads. We always talk about, is Arizona going to grow? My response to that is, we'll look at a map. And more and more people are going to be coming. And when they come, sometimes when they get here, they're in a stress situation to begin with. And so the economy certainly is a factor. But our school system, in terms of the resources that the school system has, that where children are first encountered, that's a key issue. The monies that we cut, when we cut off childcare, access to childcare for families, that's a factor. So all of these things come together to, all these things have come together to produce the crisis that we are now in. And what I keep urging is stepping back and looking at all these factors and coming up with a comprehensive plan.
You had an opinion piece in the Arizona Daily Star this week in which you talked about these issues, and I'd like to quote from it. You said, "The peril of children should activate not only outrage at one agency, but action at all levels."
Right.
Has that occurred as a result of this?
Well, I think we got a lot of attention. I mean, there's a lot of press currently involved, and that's a good thing. Whenever the media get involved, that's a good thing. But the school systems have to get involved, the justice system, the police, law enforcement, even our universities. All of us have to step back. You know, again, when your own personal children are in crisis, you don't mess around. You personally will do anything that you need to do to help your child. Similarly, all of these children we have to understand that they're all of our children. You know, we have the expression, it takes a village to raise the child. My point is, sometimes it takes a child to raise the village. And by that I mean children getting the attention of our communities, all of these communities, and saying, you know, hey, let's deal with this. You know, as if it was your own child, you would go to any length. Similarly, for the children of this state, we have to go to any length and work together to solve these problems.
State Senator David Bradley, Democrat from Tucson, thanks for coming in to speak to us. The system can work, as our next report reveals, but can it stop the heartache of child abuse and neglect? Here again is Arizona Public Media's Lorraine Rivera.
What was it like living here as a little girl?
It was okay. A little different. I had never been in a, shelter or anything like that. I was, used to a home environment, but it was a safe haven. It was somewhere where I got attention, good attention, and everybody was very friendly. And I got to be around a whole bunch of other kids and babies. So,
what is it that brought you into the system at the age of 11?
I ended up leaving my aunt and her husband. It was an abusive situation, and I ended up deciding that I didn't want to live there anymore.
Do you feel like you found the care, the treatment, the healing that you needed here?
Yeah, for the most part I did. I did receive counseling for the first time in my life, and I was able to, be safe at night, make sure nobody was going to harm me or.
You spent several months here, and then you went in and out of foster homes. How
Yeah.
many foster homes did you live in?
I was foster homes. I was in 3, and then the rest were group homes. One of the last foster homes I was in was with my foster parents, who I still visit to this day for the major holidays or just to get together on a Sunday. They're considered my parents. But they were my inspiration to become foster parents and to, give back. Yeah.
Before you got into the system, you say there were plenty of red flags that someone should have noticed for you and your siblings to get into a program like this. Yes. Describe some of what those red flags were.
My brother had been abused by our, caregivers at the time, which was my aunt and her boyfriend. And he had done, I don't know what he did. He did something bad, I guess. And to punish him, he decided to tie a rope around his neck. And when he did that, he left a mark. And of course, we had to go to school. I went to school and nobody asked. Nobody asked what happened. Nothing. There was never any question. And they prepped us though. They said, okay, if something was, teacher just asks you what happened, you're gonna tell them that you guys were playing jump rope and the rope got around you and stuff like that. It was always, you're gonna say this or you're gonna say that, We were never asked at school though. I was never asked, nobody was ever.
You feel like you were crying for help.
In a way, yeah, because I remember, having behavioral problems, a little bit of behavioral problems at school, and not bad ones, but, just not being able to focus on my work and, kind of being silly in class, disrupting the class, just a lot of stuff that for me as a mom would have raised a red flag, why are you so much feeding for attention, what's going on, that kind of stuff.
We learned recently that there are some 6,000 cases that may have had red flags on them that people called, but they were never followed up on. What were you feeling when you heard that, knowing that you were one of those children years ago?
It's very heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking to see it come out to light, and knowing that I was one of those cases, and it's probably why we're in the big mess that we're in right now, that there's so many kids in care, and we don't know, why is all this going on? That's exactly why.
Do you think about those situations that those children might be in? Wonder if it's a situation similar to yours? Could they have been helped if they came to a place like Casa de los Niños?
I absolutely think so. I think if a child is being harmed and they're pulled from that environment, they have hope. They have that chance to see a better life. But if they grow up in that environment and they never see a different way of life, then what's expected? It's expected for them to be the same and to stay the same.
Once you became an adult yourself, you got married, you have children of your own, and you made the decision to be a foster mom.
Yeah.
Tell me about what led you to that point.
I had always had it in my heart since I was a little girl. I remember being here at Casa and telling myself, I could do a way better job. It was just the kind of child I was. I was always very, I needed that. And when I met my foster mom that I call my mom, I saw her and I was like, I want to be just like her. I want to be, exactly like her. I want to bring that joy and love that she brought in my heart. So when I got older, I had my kids, and I was always around kids. If it wasn't the neighbor's child, it was my nieces and nephews, it was my girlfriend's kids. They were always at my house. My house was always full of kids. That's just the way it worked out. And one of my good friends worked for Casa. She was a case manager for them, and she was like, you know what? You should become a foster parent. And I was like, I had always thought about it, but I never took the step to do it. And she kind of told me, she's like, we do classes here, and this is what you're gonna have to do. And yeah, I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, no. And, I was like, okay, and he had incidents at work. He's a highway patrol, and he had a couple incidents at work where it was like, maybe we should do something. Maybe we do need to bring some of these kids in our home. And finally, after a while, it was kind of more pushed than we wanted to. Our neighbor had her granddaughters taken away by CPS, and nobody was stepping up. They were twin baby girls, 10 months old. They were separated because they were not finding a home for them together. When I heard about this, I knew the family. It broke my heart. I was like, I can't. I need to get those babies. Something just told me I need to get those babies. So we started off as kinship while we were getting licensed. And once we were licensed, they were my first foster kids.
Do you see yourself in these children that you foster?
Yes, I've had the privilege now to have older kids in my home, and my foster daughter is 10, and I totally see myself in her. She's just such a goal-getter. She has the right tools in front of her, and she's using them, and that was me. I was given the opportunity to, play in sports, and I was never given that opportunity before, and so I took it and I ran with it. It was great.
Emotionally, describe what it's been like having 13 children in 6 years in your home.
Emotionally, it's been rough, especially the itty-bitty ones, because, their first words are mama and, and dada, and so when they go, it's really hard.
Joining me to discuss and analyze the state's child care crisis are Mary Jo Pitzl, who's covering the story for the Arizona Republic in Phoenix, and Arizona Public Media's Lorraine Rivera. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Mary Jo.
Nice to be here.
Mary Jo, what's the status of the governor's care team, which she formed this week? How's that going so far?
Well, they are in the early organizational stages. They have just opened up a website. And I'm sorry, I don't have the address memorized yet, but the website has been created in their effort to be transparent about their work. I checked it this morning. It just sort of lays out their mission. That's about as much as they've done so far. They are also inviting public comment on that website, so there will be an imperative to get that message out to a lot of people, because I know as a reporter, there are a lot of people who have a lot of things to say about CPS. The team is charged with trying to figure out what went wrong, how to prevent that from happening again with all these case reports being not investigated, and then also to bird dog the investigation of these, what we believe are about 6,550 cases. Some of that investigative work has already begun by CPS staff, and the CARE team will be monitoring that work.
Now, Mary Jo, the governor, in forming this CARE team, went beyond the bounds of partisan politics. A little bit unusual in Phoenix these days. She's been very partisan, as have the Democrats for their part. Is that a sign that she's really serious about getting something done here?
I think that's the way to look at it. What you're doing is making a reference to Senator Leah Landrum Taylor, who is a Democrat in the state Senate. Landrum Taylor's been very involved in CPS and child welfare issues, during her whole tenure in the legislature, which I think is approaching 16. I think she's in her 15th year at the legislature. So by tapping her, the governor is turning to someone who has a deep well of understanding, as well as State Representative Debbie McCune Davis, who's another Democrat, also with a similar long track record of being very active and involved in child welfare issues. And of course, there are some lawmakers on the Republican lawmakers on the panel. And frankly, I haven't checked the registration of some of the child welfare agency folks who are also serving on the committee.
Lorraine, you were on the ground level of this story this week out around Tucson. What kinds of reactions were you hearing there to what's going on in Phoenix with the whole CPS system?
I think people here are devastated. They're wondering how this happened, what happened to get to this point, to this level, but they're also really hopeful that perhaps now with this CARE team, this could signal a positive change, a change they've been looking for.
And Lorraine, what kind of specific comments did you hear from people? Are they worried about the political nature of it? Are they worried about funding? Where are the issues coming up for them?
I didn't hear so much about politics of the issue here, but more so about the funding. Is what got us to this point in the state, and if the state really does have the money this time around to actually reinvest into a program that does need some help this time around.
And Mary Jo, are we really seeing politics set aside here, or is it too soon to say if they'll come up in connection with what the governor and others are trying to do?
There's always an undercurrent of politics, Michael, especially when it's out at the state capitol. I think there's a growing undercurrent of, if CPS is refashioned, refocused, maybe even spun off from the Department of Economic Security, what will that agency's focus be? And the tension is between making it a more comprehensive unit that looks at preventive efforts, as well as removing the bad actors and taking care of those kids who've been subject to bad actions, versus folks who would favor a prosecutorial approach. This is a police function first and foremost, and I think we see that playing out already in some tensions that are coming up between Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery, who's very much in favor of a stronger police presence on this issue, and the Children's Action Alliance, which is arguing more for the comprehensive approach.
Lorraine, would the comprehensive approach work based on what you saw on the street this week? You were mostly at Casa de los Niños, which is a private agency, but it deals with the foster care system.
It sure does. One of their concerns is once these cases are investigated, if any of them are then forwarded on to community agencies like Casa de los Niños, what does that mean for the numbers? Will we have new children in the program, or will those mean that some children were left off the radar and will stay off the radar because they've aged out of the system? So it could mean an influx in the number of children put into the program.
And Mary Jo, if that were to happen, it would mean the need for perhaps more funding, but there's already been talk among Republican leaders in the legislature that that's not going to be on the table, at least for this time. Are you hearing about that?
Well, it seems that not a day goes by that there isn't a new financial demand or belief that there needs to be more financing from the state for something or another. Just this week, we saw what's happened with the Forestry Division regarding the conduct of the Yarnell Hill fire. that could point to some need for more money, for better communications, equipment, et cetera, over at forestry. As you know, Brewer already has a request in, or her agency, I should say, has a request in for $111 million more for CPS. There are others who believe that in addition to that, there probably needs to be more money. This is going to be a fairly hard sell in the legislature. Any kind of extra funding is going to be scrutinized because lawmakers are very wary about falling back into a deficit situation, and they don't want to touch that rainy day fund, which is about $452 million right now.
Lorraine, at Casa de los Niños, where you were this week, they get some of their funding through private fundraising, but they also get state money because they're dealing with foster children assigned to them by the state. What are they saying there about the financial situation? Can they bear the burden of an increased caseload?
They try not to turn anyone away, and moving forward, they don't expect to, but they may rely more on that private funding, as you said, Michael, to really help take care of these children.
And Mary Jo, in just a few seconds that we have remaining, any reckoning that money will come to the fore in the next year? Will the legislature be compelled to take care of this problem by spending more money on it?
They very well might. The question is how much money. Representative Kate Brophy-McGee already is working on legislation that would spin off CPS, make it its own agency separate from DES. Presumably that might take a little bit of money to create a cabinet level position and then to handle all the workload that CPS obviously can't handle with its current staffing.
Mary Jo Pitzl with the Arizona Republic in Phoenix and Lorraine Rivera, Arizona Public Media here in Tucson. Thanks so much. This was episode number 152 of Arizona Week, nearly 3 years of in-depth news and public affairs. And it's my last episode as host. I'm moving on to duties as Arizona Public Media's news director, and Lorraine Rivera is taking over as producer and host of Arizona Week. Lorraine, thanks for those reports on the CPS system. What is it that you hope to bring to Arizona Week as the new producer?
Well, Michael, you have a reputation for in-depth journalism. I hope I can continue that. I've worked in Tucson and in Yuma. I feel like I have a great understanding of some of the issues that impact Arizonans, and I hope with in-depth journalism as the base, we can continue to offer that to viewers at home.
And my viewers and I look forward to all of it.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Michael, some big shoes to fill. I hope I can step up to the plate.
Thank you. That's our program for Friday, December 6, 2013. What's in the works for next Friday, Lorraine?
Right now we're looking at education and immigration, of course, big hot topics throughout the country, but more specifically here in Arizona. So we'll work on that and have that for you next week.
Great, we look forward to that. Thanks for watching. For Arizona Week and Arizona Public Media, I'm Michael Chihak.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.